I kind of didn't know that they were bullying me.
That's one way to survive bullying.
Exactly,
is by not understanding your
yeah,
bullying.
like being oblivious. Like when they say a lot of like remark, I didn't know. I just take it. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, like And some people actually pointed out, I was like, oh, this is not good to say. This is racist. And I was like, I don't even know what racist means. So I was like, oh, okay. Then I learned this word. We have a dictionary, right? This dictionary thing. And I was like, racist. I was like, oh, okay. Now I learned a new word. Then whenever they try to make something nasty, then I will be like calling them out.
Welcome to Proudly Asian, a podcast series that tells bold and proud stories of Asians by Asians. My name is Isabel, your podcast host, and I'm here to find stories that challenge biases we face every day. There's never just one way to look at Asians. This podcast will take you through a deep dive into the life stories, struggles, and triumphs of young Asians around the world. On today's episode, we have Cardi Yeung, the founder of Pilates Body, a Hong Kong-based Pilates studio. Born and raised in Hong Kong and educated in the UK and Switzerland, Cardi joins us to talk about her entrepreneurial journey after overcoming racism and bullying from school.
Welcome back to Proudly Asian. Now, for those who are watching this episode on YouTube, you will know that we are once again on location filming at a very cute studio space. So if you want to find out where we are at, why we're here, do stick around for the Rapid Buys segment as well, because we're going to change things up for this episode. But without further ado, let's bring in our guest, Cardi. Cardi, welcome to Proudly Asian. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. And how are you?
Hi, thank you. I'm really happy to join the show. I am good. I just came back from Phuket and I had a fitness holiday. I don't know if people are aware of it. There's something, like a wellness and fitness holiday. And it's like basically you work out and then you do all this like therapies, like cold therapy, cryotherapy, IV drip. It's amazing. I feel so refreshed. And It also really makes me be a little bit more aware of what I eat and your lifestyle, your habits.
Wow. So it wasn't like a completely relaxing retreat. There was a bit of like intense physical training involved.
There are, but at the same time, you can make it as relaxing as you want or as intense as you want. Like obviously my boyfriend went nuts. He was doing like 4 hours of workout a day. I was doing like 2 or 1. Or
balance.
Yeah, or just a yoga and then like had like 3 hours massage,
Yeah, I mean, balance is the most important.
Yeah.
And now, of course, you just came back from this wellness and fitness training. It's very much like, like on brand with like our current episodes, because we're going to talk a little bit about, your career as a wellness and fitness entrepreneur. But before we get started with that, we usually ask a set of questions to our guests on Proudly Asian. So let's start with the basics, Cardi. Tell us about your background. Who are you? What are you? Where did you grow up?
Okay, so I was born in Hong Kong and I moved to the UK when I was 12 years old.
So it's like you spent pretty much your formative years there.
Yeah, exactly. So, graduated primary school. I failed almost every subject. I was like probably the last.
Was it in Hong Kong?
It was in Hong Kong. Like my whole report was red. And my mom was like, what is this? And I was like, I don't know. And I can only go to like band 3 high school, in Cantonese.
Band 3, is it like
the worst? Like the worst group, It's like band 1 is like, St. Paul. And you have like band 2 and band 3. Then I went to that. They actually selected a school for me. I went there. And I was like, I told my mom, like, I don't think I can survive in that school. Not that the school is bad, but I would just, and also my mom was like, you know what, maybe let's figure out something. Then they sent me to the UK and I was like, great, excellent. Okay.
And where were you in the UK?
I was in Canterbury, Kent.
Nice.
It's a boarding school. And I was like, lovely. Then I went there. Well, I thought I can speak English, you know? Like I thought, okay, I think I can survive there because I kind of can speak English. Then when I got there, I realized like, oh, my English is like non-existent. It's like I have trouble. I was struggling to just express like the very minimum, you know? And I was just like, oh no, but I'm already there and I can't look back.
No.
Yeah. Then I grew up there. I went to boarding school there. And obviously, like, as I was the only Asian kid in my year.
Oh, wow.
Well, there's another Asian kid, actually. There's a Korean. But
Okay.
I was like, oh, he's Korean. We're both Asian. But he's literally born and raised there. So he's, you know.
I see. So he
I'm
was
a little bit.
pretty much a local.
Yeah.
And you were sort of one of the only like international students around.
Yeah, because I was in year 7. Like back in the days, there were not many Asian kids that go to UK at 12, right? So I was the only one.
So obviously you would sort of stick out a little bit.
I was like the first few questions they asked me was like, oh, you're Chinese, you know, like oh, you eat monkey brain, and I was like, no, like I don't eat monkey brain, but I guess like I actually didn't even know that people eat monkey brain.
Like, do
you
people
know?
do that?
I don't know, but apparently there was like some videos online that shows that. So
yeah, I mean that's probably a case of like people taking whatever they see online
Yeah.
way too seriously. They didn't know how. I mean, like given you were 12 and it was a long time ago,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they probably didn't even know how to like fact check and verify whatever they saw online.
it's just a misconception of your culture.
exactly
Right. So I was just like, oh, I didn't know about it. Didn't care. And then I was staying in a dormitory, a room with like 6 different other girls. It was like total 7 of us. It was a chaos, right? Everyone was like all different nationalities. There's so many dramas, so many things going on.
Oof. Was it a girls' school or?
It was a co-ed school, so
Right.
boys and girls together.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Would you say, like, I don't know if you know, would you say that could be like potentially more drama if it was a girls' school, or actually it's a different type of drama when they're like boys and girls?
Probably different type.
Right.
But I kind of prefer that because I used to grow up in a girls' school, right?
Ah.
Yeah.
So you probably didn't enjoy it
Yeah.
as much.
It was quite fun.
Okay. It was fun. Is it like fun in a sarcastic way?
Yeah, it was quite fun. No, it was quite fun to be like hanging out with boys.
Oh. I get you. I
Yeah.
get you. It's
Yeah.
refreshing, probably.
Yeah.
Having grown up from like girls' schools in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
But I want to like ask a little bit more about like your earlier years in Hong Kong as well, because you mentioned just now that you went to girls' school. Like, how were girls' schools in Hong Kong actually?
I can't really remember because it was in primary school.
Right.
So, you know, basically we just go to school, we go, you know, we
Too
study.
young for drama.
Exactly. There was no drama and I failed in all my subjects and I didn't like school. I really didn't like the way in Hong Kong because it's not, everything is like,
Spoon-fed.
yeah, 填鴨, they called it like, you
Yeah.
know, like spoon fed. Yeah. And then I just didn't like it. So I felt really restricted. Like I didn't enjoy school in that way, in that sense.
It's so true that you kind of like getting to a really good point, because I mean, you mentioned you didn't do well at school, but
Yeah.
then, I mean, sometimes it's like, as kids, we used to think, oh, we didn't do well because we were stupid or we were
Yeah.
not smart enough.
Yeah,
but now
yeah.
that we look back on
Yeah.
that, it's probably just like the system or the way that they did education was
Yeah.
not the kind of style that would work with us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had that thinking when I was in primary school already. I didn't like the style. Like I told my mom many
Oh my
times.
God, you're a smart kid.
No, I was not smart, but I was just like rebellious. I wanted things my way.
You thought of a very smart reason to explain why you didn't do well.
Yeah, exactly, precisely.
And I mean, we talked a little bit about like you going to boarding schools in the UK, and it wasn't the most peaceful experience for you. But could you like go into a little bit more detail, as in like what was it like when you first arrived, and how did you eventually survive, or if you did not survive?
So I still remember very vividly. It was the last day, like my mom was flying the next day, like the last day. And
She dropped you off.
yeah, she came to the UK with us for a week. I went to the UK with my sister as well. And I remember in the taxi, and my mom was like, "Oh, I'm flying tomorrow." Then I started to cry. Then she started to cry. The taxi driver was like, "You guys all right?" Like, you know, like really British accent, right? I was like, and then we were like, "We're fine." And we were crying. It was just a mess, okay? Then I realized that, okay, like tomorrow is a day that I'm going to be by myself. Like I have to be independent.
For the first time.
Yeah, then obviously the homesick, I was really homesick. The fact that I was really homesick is because I can't speak the language. People don't understand me. I try to convey my feelings, but obviously my English is just so limited that I feel like I can't express myself. You know, that's something that is quite hard, you know?
Yeah.
It's like nobody understands you. And you're already in a foreign country, you're a foreign person. And you're in the dormitory with 6 other different girls. They all have different backgrounds, different nationalities. And it's just so much like, boom, everything, you know?
It's a lot to take in because it was your first time being away from home.
Yeah.
And culturally and from a language perspective, people have different communication styles as well.
Exactly. Language, culture, everything. I'm learning stuff. But it's a very fun process. You know, in a way, it was quite hard in the beginning, but at the same time, I just embrace it.
It's a good training.
Yeah, it's a very good training. It makes you grow up really fast. You know, it's like I'm not relying on anything. It's just like, okay, I have to be more independent. And it kind of shaped the way how I think things a little bit different. And obviously, like, you know, I deal with bullying, you know, but I didn't know that they were bullying me because my English was so bad. Like I kind of didn't know that they were bullying me.
That's one way to survive bullying.
Exactly,
is
like,
by not understanding your
like being
bullying.
oblivious. Like when they say a lot of like remark, I didn't know. I just take it. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, like, you know. And some people actually pointed out, I was like, oh, this is not good to say. This is racist. And I was like, I don't even know what racist means. So I was like, oh, okay. Then I learned this word, you know, we have a dictionary, right? You know, this dictionary thing. And I was like, racist. I was like, oh, okay, now I learned a new word. Then whenever they try to make something nasty, then I will be like calling them out. Yeah, then I call them out and tell them, hey, this is not good. You know, it doesn't make me feel good. Then they understand it. Yeah, so a lot of time it's a lot of misconception of your culture. Like they've never been. Like in Hong Kong, you know, we call Westerners 鬼佬. Here you say that
it's like
it can be racist, but it can also be, you know, I feel like it's just a misconception of the culture. And when I tell them this is not comfortable, I'm not comfortable with it, they will actually stop.
That's good. So at least your bullies were not like real bullies. They just kind of like came from a place of ignorance.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, yes. I also just kind of like just go with it. Try not to make too much out of it and just go with it. And then I just grow, you know.
In a way, I feel like that's how we should be dealing with like haters and, you know, like these day and age as well as, you know, you just go with it. It's like you say whatever you say, I do whatever I do. Like, let's not bother each other.
Exactly. And in the end, it's just like, you know what, it's fine. And then they get bored, right? When you don't have any reaction to them.
Right.
They kind of just be like, you know what, let's just be friends. What are we doing here, you know?
It's like, let's be friends for a change.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they just like, you know, they tone it down. And also it's just like when you get older, right, you have more Asians coming in. And
that's true. So, I mean, so basically the kind of bullies that you dealt with during your boarding school years, there wasn't really one who was really about like crushing you, but then mostly is sort of, you know, what you said, cultural, like ignorance, misunderstanding and misconceptions.
There are some girls that will like try to pick on you and try to like really attack you. But I always try to think in their shoes and be like, oh, why are they doing this to me? And then think about it and it's like, try to understand them and try not to just react too much. That's what I deal with most of the time. Like when I stand in their shoes and think about it, maybe they don't understand me, maybe they don't understand my culture. In that way, it's like it's easier for you to cope with it.
You were already a really wise kid when you were growing up. You kept on saying you're not smart, but then I feel like from what you're telling us, like so far, you were really smart.
Yeah, I would try to use that way to cope with situations that I can't control. I can't control her being mean to me.
No.
Right? And I'm like, okay, just try and think of that. And then just try to make me feel a little bit better about it. So when she comes at me again, I just be like, okay, remember she's going through some stuff, or, she doesn't understand the culture.
Yeah. Were there any like specific racial remarks that they made that you still remember?
Well, they always just like do this stuff.
Like they would just keep doing it.
Yeah, they will just keep
Wouldn't
doing
they get bored?
They will just keep doing it. Whenever they see you, they just like, you change on channel, like, like stuff like that. But it doesn't bother me. The fact that they're doing this kind of thing.
It's more like the textbook racism, right? It's like the classic one.
It doesn't bother me. To be honest, I kind of just laugh with them, It's like.
Right. And then I know that, like after the UK, you eventually moved to Switzerland to school as well. So what brought you there?
What brought me there was because I was dating a guy at that time in high school. And I was like, this is my first love. And he was asking me, or, kind of like saying like, oh, if you don't come to Switzerland with me, I'm going to break up with you. Kind of thing, I was like, okay, sure, I'm going to go there with you. So I went there. I was really sad in Switzerland because I really wanted to stay in the UK. I really like UK. And I really, like when you're like after GCSE, you go into A levels, right?
Yeah.
That's when you like wear your suits, like you don't have to wear school uniform. I was so excited about that. And I bought so many nice suits, and then turns out I'm not going. And I'm like, okay, fine. And then when I went to Switzerland, you have to wear uniform because we're in a hospitality school. And also Switzerland, they speak, I was in the French part, so they speak French.
Yeah.
I was learning French in GCSE, and I do like the language, but for some reason I can just never master it. I wasn't hanging out with enough local and French as well.
You're not vibing with the language.
No, and the school was it was quite hard, like in a hospitality school, like the teachers are actually very strict, especially we have like, we have to like kind of like run a hotel, when we have like F&B. It was really tough.
So what kind of training or lessons would you be getting from hospitality schools? Like would there be like etiquette training and things like that?
Etiquette, language, running a hotel, accounting, and also doing hands-on F&B stuff, serving clients, serving customers in like a proper, fine dining restaurant.
Wow.
It's really scary, especially with a French manager that's so unpredictable. Like it was just, the plates were really heavy. Like everything was like manual, like proper, That's why it makes me appreciate people in F&B.
Yes.
Like I understand how hard.
Whenever they make the experience so smooth and seamless, that's when they know their stuff.
Yeah, and it's so hard. Like it's such a hard work. Like my fingers were like I don't know, it was like too much pressure because I keep holding on plate, right? And it's keep on getting like inflamed. Yeah, and it's like your joint. It's not terrible. It's like it's just really hard.
Intense.
Intense. Yeah.
Yeah, I get
my bicep from that, like holding a lot of plates.
Well, it's like it prepared, somehow that training from hospitality school prepared you for what you would be doing later on in your career.
I used to hate any kind of workout. I was never into workout as well. So.
Wow. So it's quite a change as well.
Yeah.
Right? That's crazy. Because I understand like from services industry or like F&B, the best service is normally the kind of service that you don't notice.
Yeah.
And was it like quite like, oh, if you did not set the table right, they would come over and then it's like correct the knife.
We have to measure how far away the knife and the fork is.
Oh
like
my
exactly
God.
2 inches off, like with your fingers, like, and you have to set the table up in like 5 to 10 minutes, like tablecloth.
Wow. So whenever you host parties now, you must be so good at it.
Kind of forgot about it, but I am pretty like picky in terms of things like that. If it's not aligned together, I will be like, ooh, Yeah,
Mhm.
which is quite good because it makes you be really aware of each detail.
Yeah, you might see things that people even like don't see.
Yeah, yeah.
You mentioned a little bit about, like all these years going to school in the UK and Switzerland. It did not come without its challenges. So if now you could kind of like maybe send your younger self a message, tell her something, what would you have said to her?
Be present. Like, I saw that question yesterday, like last night, and I was thinking about it. I was like, what should I send it? Like, is it going to be something very cliche, like, no regrets, like, live
never
your
give
life
up.
to the fullest, That I just thought about this thing because, like, even until today, like, I wish I can be more present in all of this time instead of always like worrying or thinking the worst. Because I was like, it really ruined a lot of the memories of the trips because I wasn't present, And actually, like, my friend pointed out to me like a few years ago that she's like, you're always like thinking about the future. Like, I'm always not present. Then that was like the aha moment. Like, oh, I have to be more present. Because, when you think about the future, your whole body is like in a panic mode. Like, oh, what did I forget? Oh, what? And I'm constantly in that mode, like, even now. So I have to like always tell myself, be present. Then I was just like taking a shower one day and I was like thinking about that amazing trip I had with my boyfriend. But I didn't enjoy it because my mind was just so full of stuff that was so unnecessary that it ruined the whole trip. Like, I wasn't enjoying anything, I was in my mind. And I was just like, that's like a big regret that I have.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, I want to tell my younger self that I want to be more present.
That's a very wise advice because like at any given time, like we always have to like just stop and take stock of our current environment. It's like the plant right next to us. Like, it's such a nice plant. Like, why do we never notice it? Or even take stock of like, oh, like I survived another day. Or like just look around you, oh, I have all of these things. But then instead, a lot of people would tend to just think about, oh, what's going to happen in 5 years' time? Without really looking, like having a hard look at their achievements and what they currently have. Right?
Exactly. And be like grateful of what you have.
And even with you in Switzerland, you had like this amazing view in front of you, but you just didn't really think about it.
I didn't think, and I was always in like, in the hatred or like I just didn't enjoy it. But now when I think back, I was like, because I always think like, oh, the grass is greener. Oh, if I stayed in the UK, it's going to be so much better. I am always like this. So that's why when I was like, in hindsight, I was like, yeah, that really ruined a lot of my memories.
Yeah. I think we all make that mistake. We all kind of like, wherever we are, we always wish we were somewhere else.
Right? Yeah. This is really annoying. Yeah.
That's a good reminder.
Thank you.
But then I know that, after you graduated from hospitality school, I mean, you did not graduate to become the entrepreneur that you are today. So you did some other jobs fresh out of uni. So could you tell us a little bit about like the early career journey for you? Any like more aha moments that led you to where you are today?
So I graduated with a degree that I do not want to pursue in, right? And my mom was like, oh, what are you going to do with your life now? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm just going to chill, Then I just chill for half a year. Then my mom was like, it's already half a year, you're spending my money, you're living in my place, like, you gotta start thinking about your future. And I was like, I don't know. I guess I'm gonna find a job, Then I was just like, okay, I don't even know how to write a CV, So it's just like, okay, then I got myself my dad actually introduced like his friend introduced the first job to me. And it was like, a customer service in a building. So, like when you work in a building, the receptionist. I was that role.
I see. It's sort of with like a building management.
Yeah, kind of like in a management company kind of thing. I was working in a back office and I have to wear uniform, and I hated it. But anyway, I cannot escape this curse, you know. I was like, another uniform. I don't want to wear uniform. So anyway, that was like working at back office, like, you know, it's okay, but it's really like, it just wasn't something that I wanted to do. To be honest, like when I was a kid, I never wanted to work for anyone. But that's because like my dad is always an entrepreneur. He never worked for anyone. He quit school when he was like 12, but that's not because he wanted to quit, right? It was like family reasons, financial reasons, right?
Circumstance.
Yeah, like he has to start to work early to fund his family, right? So that was a different thing, right? But he's always an entrepreneur, and it's really like, this really, I don't know, it's like ingrained in me that I was like, I wanted to do something myself too.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to work for anyone. But
and it's so true, because like growing up, you only saw your dad or your parents like working as their own bosses and like being in entrepreneurship, then you wouldn't even know like how to operate otherwise, right?
Yeah, and my mind is just kind of shifted into like, oh, I need to think of what I like. You know, it's just like thinking about myself, not, you know, working in a company. And then like, you know, it was just like, I know that the fact that it will never be my, you know, it will never be my future.
Being an employee.
Yeah. But obviously, when you were young, when you just graduated, right? You were full of hopes. You
gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, you're full of hopes, and also you're just arrogant, and you don't know about how hard the real world is, right? I thought I was the best, you know.
I think we all make that mistake as well.
I felt I was the best. I was the smartest person. I was like, I can nail this quickly. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go into the corporate world, work there for like 2 years, and then like I'm gonna like, boom, rich entrepreneur, done. Like I will have a family by 30. I'll be a millionaire, and like boom, boom, boom. You know, like I had all these dreams, and I realized how hard it is. I realized how hard working is. You know, just realized how mundane and how hard working is, and how like long working hours in Hong Kong. I was working Monday to Saturday as well in that job. Yeah. Then obviously I quit after 2 or 3 months. I was like, nah.
Oh, wow.
Then I went into another job, which is also like management. It was a management trainee, but it's also like a property management company. And again, I just really, really not enjoyed like a single part of it. And also I was also very naive, very arrogant in a way. I always think there's so much opportunities for me, you know. It's like I would, you know, it's fine if I don't like this, I quit and I go and find another job, right? I didn't think that, okay, if you keep on quitting or getting fired or whatever, like you gotta look really bad on your CV, right? Like nobody wants to hire somebody like that. Obviously, I was just so reckless. I was like, I don't care, you know? Then the second job, I got fired. I was like, oh, okay. And then that's like when I hit my lowest point in my life. That when I was like, okay, got fired, what should I do? And then obviously I just went on a holiday. I was like, fine. I'm gonna go on a holiday, forget about it. And
I love how you really follow your heart at any given point.
I mean, I was like really miserable, but at the same time, I was like, you know, I'm gonna go on a holiday, forget it. Then when I come back, I will face a reality, right? Then I come back, and then it was like the beginning of COVID. Yeah, 2019, right? Yeah, It was the beginning of COVID. Then we are all like locked up, right?
Yeah.
It's like I'm so glad I did that trip.
Like nowhere to go. No one was doing anything.
Yeah, exactly. That I was just like, oh no, right? But then that's also that moment that I wanted to start my business, you know, like my first business. And it was really funny. Like, so it's like I kind of like saved up a little bit for my business. Then somehow I don't know why, there was just this person that came to me and was asking me for this investment opportunity. And I was like, oh, I was pretty young as well, right? And he was like, oh, you know, like I just wanted to borrow this amount. Then I will pay you back in like a week, like with interest. I have no idea why I would be like, oh, okay, sure, I'm gonna transfer that to you. So I transferred almost all of my saving to him.
Okay.
And then, boom, he disappeared.
No.
And I was like, oh, then that, I was even lower. Okay, I guess rock bottom.
Rock bottom.
And then I really wanted to start my business because at that time I had this idea, right? Because I used to be on keto diet and I wanted to sell like keto coffee, like keto products. You know, I got scammed. I have very little money to pay for my supplier, very little money, and I don't have enough money for marketing. And also that, like, I was blaming myself, like how stupid I can be. And anyway, okay, so yeah, but then I started it. And a lot of people were interested in it. And this is how I got my e-commerce, like my first taste of entrepreneur.
So you started like a keto coffee.
It was my brand as well. Everything was mine. And I have to learn how to do marketing, do everything shipping, how to like reach out to clients. Then I started to do pop-up. Then I started to do, but back then it was really good because a lot of people were really interested in keto and they don't know what that is. So I was selling keto coffee, which is like a bulletproof coffee, right? So you put like a ghee, like a butter, but it's called ghee in your coffee. It's a recipe from the Himalayas. So Himalayans drink it in the morning as breakfast because it's really full. Like you don't need to eat. You just drink this for breakfast, then you don't have to eat. And it also keeps you in your ketosis stage. Like you need it for when you're on a keto diet. Yeah, and also you put in MCT oil. You have to put in the best, which is like C8 MCT oil. So everything is like my formula. I tested, like I said to the supplier what I want to put in, like all the best ingredients. Like that's how I made my first sample. And it was like, to be honest, the reaction was really good.
It was all during COVID, right?
Yeah, like people were actually telling me this thing is really good. I want to buy it. Like, yeah, people were asking me for it. I was doing pop-up. I don't have time to do, I actually did online marketing 1 month. The result was so good, but I don't have enough money for it. So I just went doing different pop-up.
Right.
That's how I, got my first taste and I started to launch more flavors.
And that's like in the middle of COVID.
Yes.
I can imagine like the R&D stage for you. It was all remote as well.
Yeah. Like sending it back and forth.
Crazy.
Yeah, but it's such a good learning curve. And then I started to be a little bit more comfortable. I learned all the graphic designs. Like, I was just using Canva, but I learned all the design, packaging design, everything. And I get better, setting up an online shop, Shopify, everything.
But it seems like you were a lot more engaged and it wasn't quite like the same story as like when you were working full-time. You're just like, yeah, I don't care. Like this sucks.
Well, yeah, because now I know that I don't have any more backup plan.
True.
I have completely ruined my career.
I remember like when we met up, you mentioned like when all the doors were like closed on you, entrepreneurship was the only option.
Exactly. And
like you had to create a door and open it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I have nothing to fall back on except this. So that's when the moment I was like, okay, I need to work hard. And I also got scammed, right? So I was like, okay, I need to work harder. Otherwise, I'm going to be sleeping on the street soon. So
wow.
That's the moment.
But now that I think some of our listeners, if they like listen to the first part, the intro of the episode, or if they read the episode description, they would know that now you run a Pilates studio.
Yeah.
So how did you go from keto coffee to Pilates?
Okay, so basically I was still running the keto business and it was towards the end of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
During COVID, the e-commerce business was really good. But then, the pop-up wasn't good because nobody goes out, right? I was doing pop-up when there was like the peak cases was like 30,000 a day or something. Oof. And the whole street was empty, right? All the restriction and stuff like that. And also it's just like the cost for making all of this stuff and the shippings went up by like 3 times.
Wow.
And it's impossible for me to do it anymore. So I kind of see the end of it, like I would love to do it because I actually have a few new product lining up. But I was just at this point where I was like, it's also, like e-commerce business is really stressful. A lot of people don't know about it.
Like you had to do the customer service yourself.
Customer service, selling the product, marketing expenses, storage, and all of your money goes back into inventories. Especially when you have more and more SKU, you need a lot. All of my products are specially made for me, so it's not like I buy it, that I can order anytime. It has to be made especially for me. So there's a minimum order and everything. And it's food. It also has expiration date, right? Even though it's a lot longer than fresh food, but still, like there's so many of this stuff, and it was just really stressful because every month you are really tight on everything, on your budget.
Yeah.
Like it's really tight, it's really scary. You have to pay a lot of this to that, to that, to that. And I'm just like, like kind of like lost. So there was another aha moment. I was never athletic. I'm still not athletic, to be honest. Like I'm not good with sports or any kind of thing. But when I broke up with my first boyfriend, I went to the gym for the first time. And that's when I was like, oh, I like it because I can do it by myself. It's like just a good way to release my anger. So I went to the gym. Then this is how I started my whole fitness journey, right? Then during COVID, we can't go to the gym. Then I was like, okay, I am going to start yoga because I can do it at home. Then I got my yoga license and I was just like, well, before I got my yoga license, because I was like working out a lot every day. I was working out like 2-3 hours a day. Then I was just like, if I can turn this into my career, that will be good. I can work out and at the same time earn money. Like
you're investing a lot of time and energy in it already.
Exactly. And I was like, why not? Ding, 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 like. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to become a yoga instructor. Let's do it, okay? Then I went. I don't know why. I was just like, it was so impulse. I'm like such an impulse person. I was like, okay, let's go.
You were like so random, and then I just decided to get a license.
Exactly. Then I was like telling my mom, like, you know what, like, oh, I'm also going to be a yoga instructor. And my mom's like, what? Like, anyway. And then I went and did my license. So I thought I was good. Again, I thought I was good at yoga. Then when I went to the yoga trainer, I was like, oh no, my yoga is really bad. Okay, like I'm not flexible enough. I'm not strong enough. But I got the license anyway, like 200 hours. But I was like, oh, like to be an instructor, you have to be really, really good at it. Like you have to have like, maybe you're really good at back bend, or maybe you're really good with inversion. And I couldn't even do a headstand, like I was just like, oh, this is probably not going to be a good career for me. Like it's going to take a lot of years. And I was practicing a lot already, but it, my body I just couldn't do it, right? And then, then I just kind of stopped it. And also just one day when I woke up, I was just like, I got really sick of yoga because I was doing it for 2 years and I was doing it 3 hours a day plus all the meditation. It was like 4 or 5 hours of just doing yoga. And I was just like, I got really sick of it. Then I was like, why don't I go back to Pilates? I really like Pilates. And still like towards the end, we can start going out, like going to studio again, right?
Ah, yes.
Then I discovered it.
So that's when you discovered Pilates.
Yes. Then I was like, this is awesome. Like, so then I like, okay, I'm going to get my license. And then like, at the same time, it's just like, I went to a few different studios. Some of it is really good, but they're quite expensive. And then like, some of them is just like, it's okay. Like, I was like, oh, but I was really into like a style called athletic. So this is like my style. It's like athletic Pilates. It's a little bit more intensive. It's kind of like you do a lot of this gym movement, but on the reformer. Yeah. And it's a little bit more innovative. Like, yeah. So I did few classes in the US and I was like, I really like this style, but I couldn't find it in Hong Kong. Then I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I should just open a Pilates studio because I see the gap.
Yeah.
Because after COVID, a lot of studios closed.
True.
And I can see that Pilates is picking up, like in the US, and also in Australia, everywhere. It's like everywhere around the world is actually getting really popular.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is my moment. I need to do it. And I know that I wasn't prepared enough to open a studio. I wasn't experienced enough, but I was just like, I have to do it because otherwise it's going to be too late. Like, there's so much more Pilates studio this year
Right.
than last year.
I think even now there aren't like a whole lot. I mean, like compared to yoga studios, Pilates studios is still kind of like sort of.
There is a lot more now, like a lot more now. Like I see there's like studio in like even in like very remote area.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of them now.
So it is a trend in the city now.
Because they're like Pilates is a little bit different because one class you can't have too many machines, right? Like yoga, you can have 20 people in one class. For us, it's like 6 to 12 maximum, or even 3 to 12, like 12 is a lot, right? A lot of reformers.
Yeah.
Because we are doing it on a machine, right? We have resistance and you have to be familiar with the machine.
And as an instructor, you also have to kind of like help your students correct their posture.
Yeah. Get really connect with. So Pilates is a lot about your mind and body connection, that your mind is controlling your muscles and not the muscles controlling your mind. That thing.
Yeah. I've only started my Pilates journey. It's like, I gotta say, sometimes, like when you watch videos, you see all these people like with like beautiful movement and it would look like, it doesn't look very like intense and physically demanding. And then when I tried it for the first time, that's when I realized, wow, like I had no idea that part had muscle.
Yes.
I was like, why am I working on like all these muscles that I had no idea existed before?
Actually, the easiest pose is the hardest. Like the curl up, this is the hardest actually.
Yeah, it's like when my instructor was like, keep on pulling. I was like, for some reason, my arms are not letting me pull.
I know, right? So when I first opened my studio and I was like, my boyfriend worked out a lot, right? And he's a big guy. He's a big guy. And I was like, oh, do you want to come to Pilates? Like, do you want to come to Pilates? Try it.
Was he like, oh, it must be easy?
Yeah, and then he came after boxing. He was all sweating. And then like he came and I was like, okay, let's try some moves here. Then he was like, put on all the springs. I said, are you sure? And he was like, yeah, this is like for girls.
It's like the most resistance.
Yeah. Like the more springs you have, it's the more heavier, right? Like he was like, he did it like, oh, and he was like, this is actually really painful. And then he left after like 3 minutes. He was like, I just did boxing. I'm not gonna have another workout. And then so that was his take on Pilates.
Wow. Yeah. So I mean, I know you are maintaining a really cute Pilates studio here, and our listeners who are watching on YouTube, you'll be able to catch a glimpse of it in a bit. But I mean, I'm just wondering, like from my first visit, when I walked into the studio, I just felt like, wow, this feels like such a girlish, a safe space to be doing Pilates in. Like, did you put a lot of thought into kind of like decorating or curating that space?
Yeah, I mean, it's the space evolved. It went from like not looking like this, like it was just very simple, to looking like this. Like I put in different things and stuff. So I wanted to create. So first I had this white reformers and they were terrible. And I have to replace all of them. Then when I was like in the process of replacing them, I was choosing the color, right? And I was just like, you know what, let me just go pink. Because when I first started it, I had white reformers because I wanted to be more like unisex, for guys and girls. But like guys is probably like 1% of my clients or 2%. I was like, why do I have to cater to that 2%? Why don't I just go crazy?
All in with the pink theme.
Pink. Then I went nuts. Then like everything went pink, like pink reformers, pink paintings, pink socks, like pink, everything pink. It's so easy as well, it's like it's better. And I really like pink. I was like, this is my color. So that's how I transformed it into an all pink studio. And also I wanted to feel like it's a girl's bedroom.
It did feel like that when I walked into the space.
Because, reformer is a bed, right? I'm probably on the reformer bed more than my bed, to be honest,
Have you ever taken a nap on a reformer?
I did. My part-time do that too. Last time I opened the door, I saw her sleeping on the bed. I was like, oh. Yeah, I guess as a Pilates instructor, we sleep on the bed a lot, on this reformer a lot. So I was just like, I wanted to create space that's not intimidating. Like when you go to gym, it's really intimidating, right? It's like black and white, gray, very mechanical. Oh, boom, guys, pump, 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 you know? Here it's more like chill, relax, you know?
Until the classes begin.
Yeah, but it still makes you.
It's like half, pain gracefully.
Yes.
So you went through quite an entrepreneurial journey. I mean, at this point, what would be your advice for those who are looking into like becoming an entrepreneur? It doesn't have to be, wellness or fitness, but just becoming an entrepreneur. What are some of the most important lessons that you've learned so far?
Ooh, my most important lessons. You have to be really curious. Like you have to always stay curious and you always have to learn. Because in business, like especially like starting your own business, every day there's something happen.
Yeah.
It's very unpredictable. And also when you started a business, you can't just think that, oh, this is good, I'm comfortable with it. Because the world, the market is a mean place. You will have competitors. People might be falling out of love of this trend, And then if you are not always evolving or if you're not always thinking about the next step, you are going to be replaced.
That's true. So the moment you feel comfortable, that's when you're behind, right?
Exactly. In a way, yes, exactly. Like you always have to constantly try and think and also always think about how you can differentiate from others and how to stay in your own lane, but also at the same time differentiate. And also being an entrepreneur, like yourself, your mindset is really important.
Honestly, I feel like entrepreneurship is sort of like like every day it's a mind workout.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And you have to stay really humble. You always have to learn. And you have to learn how to cope with the stress.
I see why a lot of entrepreneurs would tend to have kind of like a fitness routine, because that's how they can train their mind and like their physical resilience.
Exactly.
To go through entrepreneurship.
Yeah, well, like when you feel better, you are better at dealing with your problems.
That's true. But now it's time for us to move on to the next segment, which is called
Rapid Fires.
All right, welcome to this special segment of Rapid Fires. As you can see, we are at the Pilates studio of Cardi, and we are both standing on our own reformers. So for this special segment of Rapid Fires, we decided to add to the challenge by adding some physical pain, along with all these biased questions that we are about to highlight. So Cardi, are you ready for all the rapid fire questions that you'll be getting while on this reformer?
Yeah.
She's ready. I'm not.
Okay.
So I need to make sure that my posture is all right. And Cardi herself is a Pilates instructor, so she will have no problem taking on these questions during this segment, I assume. All right, so Cardi, without further ado, let's go for the first question. You come from money.
Okay, I mean, I don't actually come from money, like a little bit, but not that much. And I have to work most of the time, and most of my savings come from me working hard.
So it's like it took so much more than money to be able to become a successful entrepreneur.
That's for sure. You have to be, and like I said, your mindset and yourself, humble, curious.
I'm feeling the burn.
That's good.
Okay, question 2. Cardi, you eat monkey brains.
I don't eat monkey brains. I don't think a lot of Chinese eat it. Like for us, I don't think we eat it. Most of us don't eat monkey.
I had no idea monkey brains was like.
Okay.
Okay, question 3. I don't want to be friends with her because she seems like she has nothing in her brain.
Well, thank you. Sayonara.
That's a good response. Oh my God. I am feeling the physical pain of all these questions myself.
Inhale and exhale back.
Oof. And next question. She seems superficial and not genuine.
Okay, so a lot of people think that about me, okay, and they would be like, I don't want to be friends with her, she's fake, she is a, But to be honest, I just say whatever I want to say most of the time.
Yes, you do.
And yes, well, be my friend, if not.
Just
Just leave it, yes!
Woo! Okay. So that concludes all the questions from this rapid fire segment, and I'm walking away this segment with some physical pain and soreness. So yeah, that's it for this rapid fire segment, everyone.
Thank you!
All right, I have worked up a bit of a sweat just from all those easy Pilates moves. You're probably like not even sweating right now, Cardi. Now for us to conclude the episode, I just have a couple more questions for you. So for those who would like to follow you, check out your work, or even check out your studio whenever they're in town in Hong Kong, where can they find you? And are you working on any new hobbies or projects?
So you can find me through the Instagram Pilates Body, okay? So Pilates Body HK, okay? And then my personal Instagram is meet_Cardi, like Cardi B, but without the B.
Okay.
Yeah, and any new project coming up, it will all be related to Pilates. So we will have some workshops coming up, and I'm also lining up with a studio in Australia, so we are going to offer Pilates instructor training program
In Australia.
well, in Hong Kong.
Right.
But it will be done remotely. So the course will be online, but we are going to provide the on-site support.
Wow, that's amazing. So do check out Cardi's profile if you're interested in finding out more about the work that she does, or even her Pilates studio.
Thank
do
you.
book a class with her whenever you're in Hong Kong. And Cardi, I just have one last question for you before we wrap up this episode. To you, what does it mean to be proudly Asian?
To be authentic. But I never want to lose not being authentic. I'd rather lose friends than losing myself.
Wow. Those are some really wise words for us to take away from this episode. But that's it for our conversation. Thank you so much for joining us on Proudly Asian. And thank you to our listeners for sticking around until the end so you could witness basically just me being in pain on the reformer. So yeah, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you very soon.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of Proudly Asian. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at proudly.asian for more content. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review on wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in and signing off for now. I'm Isabel Wong.